Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on, everybody? Once again, we are live. We back, y'all. It's Wednesday, a little bit after noon, so noon Central Standard Time. And as promised, we told y'all every week we're going live on Wednesdays at noon, just to give you a few tips to help you as a new or existing author continue to grow, right? So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Ray Destin Jr. I'm the founder and CEO of BOBM Publishing LLC. We are a full service publishing house that has launched over 300 authors to Amazon number one best-selling status. Actually, we've launched 330 to Amazon number one best-selling status. 57 of those international bestsellers, and 20 of those have actually become international number one best-selling authors. So we kind of have a little bit of a blueprint to help you as a new or existing author take your career from where you are to the next level. But y'all don't want to hear all this fun stuff. Let me get into the meat of it. Today is all about the top reasons to actually write your book. So I'm not going to give you the typical reasons. I'm going to give you some meat that you can chew on, something that you can walk away with, and something that you can actually apply to your personal life as a new author, right? So as y'all know, I like to go high level, give you the answers, and I'm going to come back and break each one of them down. So the first reason to write your book, share your experience. To share your experience. Second, establish expertise or gain more credibility, right? Third, it extend your brand or your message. Fourth is to help others to make an impact or to make an impact. Also, because you're ready to work, you're ready to put in the work to take it to the next level. But I'm also going to give you the reasons why you should not write a book. If you are thinking about it, you've been thinking about it for a while, or you just thought about it, these are the reasons that you should not write a book. To disgrace others. We'll go into that in a moment. To get rich without putting in the work. Somebody put it in your head, oh, just write a book and you'll get rich instantly. And they didn't tell you about any of the work. It doesn't happen like that. You saw somebody else do it and it looks so fun and so easy. Again, that's the wrong reason to write a book. Or because you think it's easy. That's an insult to everybody who's come before you in this business as authors and as entrepreneurs. So let's get into it. Top reasons to write your book. One of the first ones is to share your expertise. So when I say sharing your expertise, there's an old train of thought. Malcolm Gladwell wrote this book called The Outliers, and in The Outliers, what he said is it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, and most of us we sit back and we say, well, if it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert, if it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, that's a long time. How do I get there? Well, here's a few ways. If you've worked in corporate America, or if you've worked in a job in the same field for at least 5 years, let's do the math. 5 years, 52 weeks per year, 40 hours per week. That's 2,080 hours per year. But take those 2 years off for vacation, you have 2,000 hours. 2,000 times five is 10,000 hours. In that 5 years, you become an expert in your field. But just because you were there, that does not make you an expert. What makes you an expert is the fact that you actually put in the time. You actually studied the craft. You became better at it. When I worked in call centers for about 14 years. And one of the things that I always did was look for new ways to communicate effectively with customers. I looked for new ways to build leadership within myself and for the teams that I was actually working with and for. Um, I was always looking to learn and to grow. So in that 14 years, I became an expert in call centers. I became an expert in sales. I've been in sales since I was like 14 years old, selling candy during doing fundraisers for basketball, for football, for whatever sport we played. So I learned sales. Um, when you start taking the time to study the craft, that's when you become an expert. It's not when you just get out there and you say, I want to do this because You become an expert when you actually start putting in the work and you start studying the additional. Now, if you've gotten to the level that you learn more and you start hearing other people asking you the same questions over and over and over again, because this is something that you've studied, something that you've learned, something that you love doing, then yeah, share your expertise. And sharing your expertise in the form of a book is a great way to get that information out without having to repeat it again and again and again. Now you're actually stepping into another lane, which is helping others. If you can help someone else who's coming behind you, most people look at the journey that we're on and say, well, I don't have as many followers as such and such influencers, or I don't have as much money as this person, or I haven't done I don't have as much time in the business as this person. But guess what? There's somebody who's still behind you, who's coming behind you, that hasn't learned what you've learned already. So you have a level of expertise in their eyes as opposed to someone else. So sharing your expertise helps someone else. And when you help someone else, you may help to shorten their curve, shorten their learning curve, because you said the thing that they were looking for. You answered the question that they were looking for in their life or in their business in a way that nobody else could before you. So that's another reason to write your book, is to help others or to make an impact. When you help others, you're definitely going to make an impact. Put it this way: if you change one life, that one life changes another life, who changes another life, who changes another life. So you've actually helped your community by writing a book from a place of helping, right? If you are a speaker or a coach or an executive and you want to extend your brand or your message, this is a great thing to have. Writing a book. Most people say, well, my book is my calling card. Yeah, that's true, but it's also a lot of work to just create 100 to 150 or 200 and 300 page calling card. If you are in the industry, then it is a great tool for you to use to leverage your expertise and extend your credibility, right? As a speaker, myself personally, and I've shared this story so many times, but it's still funny to me, which is why I always share it. The first time that I actually had a speaking engagement was 2010. Salute to Saul Paul, who actually put me on. And when he gave me this 10 minutes out of his 60-minute presentation, afterwards we did a recap, we did a debriefing. And during that debriefing, he said, what do you have that you can leave behind with your audience? Because not everybody has a budget for a speaker. So you need to have something that's tangible that you can leave with them. And we went through this long, exorbitant conversation. And first he said, do you have a one sheet? Do you have a trifold? Do you have your brand kit? Do you have an EPK? Do you have training videos? Do you have training DVDs? Do you have CDs? Do you have any of this stuff? I said, nah, this is day one for me. He said, well, you got to have something that you can leave behind. And I said, man, I write poetry. I can write a poem, and that's what I'll give to each audience. And he just looked at me with this look and smirked at me and laughed. He said, ain't nobody gonna pay you for a poem. Nobody's gonna pay you for one poem. So long story short, we ended the conversation. I said, you know what I can do? I can write a book, and I'll have it to you in 2 weeks. That was the longest 2 weeks of my life, because that 2 weeks was actually 5 years that it took me to write that book. But what that 5-year process did for me was it opened up a door for me to actually have something tangible. The first book that I actually wrote, Claim Your Destiny, is there because of that conversation. And it actually allowed me to travel the world. It actually allowed me to speak in different locations. It actually allowed me to do more things as a result. But it was because I was expanding my brand and giving a voice to my message that could reach to places that I was not present, right? If you are a speaker, a coach, an executive, somebody who wants to extend your message, then a book is a great platform for you. But also, the last reason to write a book, or one of the things that you need to do. What's going on, D? Devin D. One of the last things that you need to have with your book is you got to be ready to work. If you are ready to put in the work that it takes to go to the next level, then yeah, absolutely write that book. But let's go to the flip side of it. The reason that you want to put in that work is because a book can keep you very busy. And when I say it can keep you very busy, it can keep you very busy at conferences, at events. That's if you become a vendor or a speaker. If you're not becoming a vendor or a speaker, then there's no reason for you to be at those conferences as an author. Just because you tell someone at a conference, hey, I got a book, that doesn't mean that they're going to buy it from you. But if you have a table set up, a booth, and I shout out to Chip Baker. Chip Baker has a great setup. He's done several books with us, 8-time Amazon #1 best-selling author, and he has a system in place where he actually brings those books with him, but he also gets pictures of the people that are there with him, that are purchasing. He has a great sales team in place. He leverages it. If you aren't willing to put in that type of work and that type of consistency and that type of grind, don't write a book, because it's not for you. Somebody probably gave you the story that you know what, the book is going to open up doors for you just because you wrote it. Yes and no. Just because you wrote it, it will open up doors. People will want to hear about the message that's inside the book. People will want to know what it is that you bring to the table as an author. But it'll also open doors for you to be on interviews. There's plenty of places, but I'm not going to give you the lie that says that just because you wrote it, they're going to reach out to you. No, you have to put in the work of actually making those connections, building those relationships. My old coach, Kendall Ficklin, said it this way. It's called hunting and farming. You have to daily, consistently look for opportunities to connect with people that are in the industry that you want to build your brand in, and at the same time that you are in this industry that people are helping to build your brand, you have to look for those opportunities. Hey, during this week, what do you have going on? I'd love to be a guest on your show. If they're already booked, find out when they are not booked, or find a day or an event that ties into the topic that you as the author are talking about, right? These are ways to leverage that. If you're ready to put in the work to build those connections, to build those relationships, to actually get out there and put your name out there, then you want to write a book. But let's go into the reasons why you should not write a book, right? And I know y'all are like, wait, this guy's a publisher and he's telling me that I shouldn't write a book. I didn't say you shouldn't write a book. I'm telling you, these are some reasons that I've seen people have written books for the wrong reasons, and those books went nowhere, right? So some of those reasons: to disgrace others. I want to tell a story. I want to tell on somebody. I want to tell people about this specific person because they did me wrong. Depending on the level of what you're talking about. If it is something that affected you and affected others and you are sending a warning out, absolutely share that story. But if it was let's say that it was a bad relationship and you just want to discredit this person by letting the world know this person did me wrong. Okay, cry me a river, build a bridge, and get over it. Most people don't want to hear that story, because at the end of that story, are you giving them hope? Are you giving them an out? Are you giving them something that they can look forward to in their own life? Or are you only writing it to make yourself feel better? If you're just writing it to make yourself feel better, that may not be the book for you. But if there were lessons that were learned, Jay-Z said it this way, and I love this quote, said, even a loss is a lesson learned, so it evens it up for me. In other words, if you learned a lesson, then you still win out of that situation. But if you are writing from a place of bitterness, that is the wrong time to write a book. One of the most famous, one of the most successful books of our day and I say of our day, probably in the last 150 years, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill, when he wrote that book, he was in a very bad place. And this comes directly from Don Green, president of the Think and Grow Rich Foundation. Shout out to Don Green if you're tuning in. But he said it this way. He said Napoleon Hill was in such a bad place when the initial manuscript was written that he sat the book on the shelf for about 2 years. He was being talked about. He was being painted negatively by the media. He was not being painted in the right mindset. So what he did was he pushed that book aside. He let it sit on the shelf for 2 years. He went through a phase of introspective healing, and he actually took time to figure out what he could do to improve his mental space. When he did that, what ended up happening was 2 years later, he went back and he rewrote every word that was in the book Think and Grow Rich. Now he had positive energy that was flowing into this book. As a result, we know what has happened since then. Millions of copies have been sold of the book Think and Grow Rich. It's been translated into several languages. Over 50 languages it's been translated into, because he wrote it with the right intention. He wrote it to help people, but he also wrote it from a place of peace. I'll let that one sit there for a second. He wrote it from a place of peace and healing. If you haven't healed from what you're writing about, you may want to take a step back because what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to ask you about the contents of your book, and you have to be able to talk about it from a place of truth. You have to be able to talk about it from a place of power, and you have to be able to talk about it with passion. And if you are still in a negative place, what's going to happen is all those people that you were sent to help, you'll end up hurting or giving them tools to damage others. You want to write from a place of peace and healing. Next reason not to write a book is to get rich without doing the work, because you saw it out there. Somebody said, man, I wrote this book and I sold 10 million copies of this book. Let me tell you from experience, it takes a lot to sell that many books. If you don't have a platform, if you got 3 Facebook friends, I'm stopping on purpose. If you don't have people that are following you, that are connecting with you, start building your audience as you're writing your book. The reason that you want to start building your audience and continue building your audience as you're writing this book is because you need an audience to sell to. You need people that are genuinely interested in what it is that you have to say. But if you think that just because you put the book out there and you know everybody that went to your high school, you know everybody, you were popular in college, you're the quote unquote man or woman at work, half those people don't like you. They're not going to support you. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that to be honest with you. You have to build an audience of people that truly are looking for the information that you are out there sharing. And if you're sharing from a place of peace and you're helping others, then when that book drops, yeah, they're going to purchase, and they're going to purchase it in droves, and they're going to tell others about you. But if you haven't built your audience, or you aren't willing to do the work to build your audience, you might not want to write that book, or you're going to have to do double work. And what I mean by double work is while you're writing, you also have to be building your market. Write your book, build your market. Write your book, build your market. And we got tools for that too, right? But if you're writing a book to get rich without doing the work, cancel that, because it does not work like that. The average author sells about 200 books in the lifespan of the book. Now, but not just the average author, but those who are extremely successful. You have authors who sell thousands of books every month. You have authors that sell hundreds of thousands of books every month. But they've built a platform and they've consistently worked to build a platform. Those are the authors that you see that are doing consistent book signings, that are doing that are doing events all the time, that you see them anytime you see an event in your city or in other cities, they're connected to those events. Those are the authors who are constantly doing speaking engagements because they're selling from the stage. Those are the people who are consistently running ads for their book. There are strategies to get these books out there, but you have to be willing to put in the work. If you're not willing to put in the work, you might want to cash out. All right. Next one is, and I've seen this happen, and I've been introduced to so many people for this reason. Oh, I saw my friend write a book, so I want to write a book. Well, that's cool and that's cute. But if you're writing a book and you don't know what your story is, you don't know who your audience is, you don't know anything about the business, and you just saw something that looked easy, it's not easy. And that's a disgrace to everyone who has come before you as an author. Just like I wouldn't dare try to get in the arena of entertainment as a musician, because guess what? There's certain notes that I can't hit. My voice just don't go that high or that low. But as an author, I know how to write. As a speaker, I know how to get on stage and wow people and blow them away. But as a musician, that's not my craft. And you have to respect the craft enough to know that nothing worth having is going to be easy. If you want it, you got to put in the work, right? And just because your friend did it or your coworker did it and you think you're better than them, or whatever the case may be, if it's coming from a genuine place and you're writing it because you truly want to help others, because you want to solve a problem, because you're an expert at something, then definitely write that book. But the reasons that I just listed are the reasons that you don't want to write the book. So let's go back to the reasons to write a book, and then I got an announcement for y'all, and then we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. So first reason to write the book is to share your experience or your expertise, right? Establishing expertise or credibility. Those two things are huge. Extending your brand or your message. Extending your brand or your message is huge, especially if you are a speaker, a coach, an executive, some professional, an entertainer that has been in the world, because people are asking you all the time the same questions over and over and over again. You definitely want to write that book so that you can get that out there, and that'll build additional income streams for you. You're writing because you want to help others or make an impact. If you write from a place of healing and from truth, and you are giving people tools that they can apply to their lives, then guess what's going to happen? People are going to love the content. They're going to buy it again, and they're going to share it with their friends because you made an impact on their life. And then other reason is that you're ready to work. You're ready to put in the work. You're ready to hit those events. You're ready to start speaking. You're ready to start coaching. You're ready to do those interviews. You're ready for the opportunities that come your way, because opportunity is not what most people think. What most people think opportunity looks like is, that's not opportunity. And that was me knocking on the desk loud. What opportunity actually sounds like is this soft knock that you barely hear. And if you aren't tuned in to recognize what the opportunities look like, you'll miss it every time. All right. So speaking of opportunities, let me give y'all an announcement. On Friday, Bestseller University is actually launching. The first course is your book blueprint. I know a lot of people out there have been asking, how do I write my book? How do I write my book? Well, this course breaks it down step by step on how to write your book. And the second thing is, for the remainder of the month of September, if you are interested in getting your book out there, you've been waiting on it, you've been trying to get it together, and you just don't know how, we have a 50% off special. It's good until the end of September. If you're ready, reach out, set that appointment, and let's get to work. Listen, prayerfully, this information was helpful to you as a new or existing author, and you're ready to put in the work to become the next bestseller. Like I said, we've launched the last 330 authors that we've worked with have all went #1 on Amazon. You should be next. Let's talk soon. Listen, I love y'all to the moon and beyond, and ain't nothing y'all can do to change that. Love y'all. Until next time.